አሪፍ ቦታ አገኘሽ? የቅድሙ ቦታ ራሱ አሪፍ ነው። እስካሁን ዌይቲንግ ላይ ብቻ ብዙ ሰው አለ። 10 ሰው ነው። ሄሎ ኤልሳ ሰማ
ይሰማል
እ
ይሰማል
አንድ ቤት ዛክሽ ይሰማል ወይ?
ይሰማል
ሄሎ
ይሰማል ይሰማል
ይሰማል።
አዎ
እሺ እንትንስ ጥራት አለው ከባለፈው
ቪዲዮ ብዙም አይደለም ግን እሺ
አሪፍ ነው። ትንሽ እንትኑን አስታ
አይሰማም
አሁን በጥራት ይሰማል።
ያንተ ይሰማል
ሄደን ይሰማል። አውሪ እስኪ ሄደን ባይ ዘ ዌይ እንትና ሪፔይን ትገባለች እና ስፒከር ያንቺ ነዋ ድምፅሽ ከስፒከርሽ የኛ ድምፅ ነው የማይሰማሽ? እኛን ትሰሚናለሽ? ካሜራው አሪፍ ነው። በስልክ
አይሰማም።
የአንቺ ድምፅ ይሰማናል። ኤጂና ማለት ነው።
ስፒከር ላይ ቼክ አድርግ።
ስልክ ልደውልላት፣ በዋትሳፕ ልደውልላት እንዳይቋረጥባት። እሺ በዋትሳፕ
ሄሎ
ሄሎ።
አይሰማም እኔ ጋ። አሁን
አሁን ይሰማሻል?
አይሰማም?
እ ኤደን ይሰማሻል? እ ሰውን ላስገባ ነው።
አማን
አቤት፣ ይሰማል?
ፋዘር ሰላም ዋሉ።
ሰላም ጉድ አፍተርኑን ይሰማል?
ይሰማል።
እንዴት አረፈዳችሁ? አ፣
ማኑኤል እንዴት ዋልክ? ሰላም ነው?
አንድ 3 ደቂቃ ብቻ ፈቃድ ከሰጣችሁ
የት ሄደሽ ነበር? አንተ ፕሮግራም አለ ስለዚህ ቶሎ እንትና ትንሽ እኔም ሚቲንግ ነበረኝ ዙም ሚቲንግ እንትን ብዬ ነው።
ሶሪ ያ እስከዛው እንታወቅ። ሰው እየጠበቅን ነው እንዲገቡ። ልንጀምር ስንል ደግሞ ኢንተርኔቱ ጠፋና መጣ። My name is Manuel Makon. I'm from the Ethiopian Association of Civil Engineers. So I see sorry for the delay. አንዳንድ የኢንተርኔት እና የኤሌክትሪክ ችግር አጋጥሞ ነው። Today we have the honor of addressing the issue of health and safety. I hope you can all hear me. Please confirm. ይሰማል አይደለ?
ይሰማል።
Okay.
ይሰማል አሁን።
Thank you. Thank you, Josie. So today we come together to discuss the topic of the utmost important titled as Bridging the Gap, Enhancing Construction Health and Safety Standards in Ethiopia. The construction industry is, as you know, a cornerstone for Ethiopian development, driving economic growth, infrastructure expansion, and urban transformation. However, we draw like behind in health and safety. So our speaker is a health and safety officer. She is NABOSH certified occupational health and safety professional with strong background in environment and occupational health and safety. She has a master's degree in public health from Addis Ababa University and a BSc from Gondar University in environmental and health and safety, and she is now working as manager for OSH. And before I give the floor to her, I want the participant to say something or to ask something like because we have a diverse group of people. If everyone is Ethiopian only, we can proceed with Amharic. Is there who can't listen Amharic? Today, we plan to address the health and safety issue, including risk assessment, hazard identification, compliance, and she's an expert. Thank you. Thank you, Mesfin, in Dermes. So we can proceed with Amharic. ስለዚህ በአማርኛ መጠቀም እንችላለን። ከሄልዝ ኤንድ ሴፍቲ በተለይም ኮንስትራክሽን ሴክተሩ ላይ ከኢቢሲኤስ 14 ጋር ተያይዞ እንዲሁም ከዛ በላይ ደግሞ እንደዛ አይሉ የመሳሰሉት ብዙ ስታንዳርዶች አሉ። ወደ 30 የሚጠጉ ከ30 በላይ በዓለማችን ላይ ከሄልዝ ኤንድ ሴፍቲ ጋር ተያይዞ እና ኮንስትራክሽን ሴክተሩ ላይ እንዴት ይሆናል እንዴት እናየዋለን የሚለውን ኤደን ተሾመ ታቀርብልናለች። ኤደን you can unmute yourself and start. Thank you. Eden, you can start. ከሳይት ላይ ሆና ነው የምታቀርብልን። እንዳጋጣሚ ሳይት ላይ ነች። ኤደን
Hello. Am I audible?
ይሰማል? Yeah, we can.
So, sorry for the inconvenience. Sorry, Engineer Ramani. I think my audio is not working properly, so I will just go on the presentation. So everyone, thank you today for coming, and I'm very honored to discuss with all of you on the occupational health and safety, the practices, and enhancing what the occupational health and safety standards in Ethiopia. So, as Emmanuel has introduced me, I am Eden Tashoma. I'm a health and safety professional with a background of occupational health and safety degrees. And I have been very much interested in understanding this discipline as it has many challenges, and you can see the improvements that has been made in our country recently. So it has an impact as a discipline, and I am currently working on telecommunication industry as a health and safety manager. So today we're going to discuss with me on what is the importance of health and safety in construction projects. So we might think that health and safety is not like it's not something it can add to any project. It's just a waste. We can consider all the reasons, but why do we implement? We have to answer why we do implement health and safety, and what can we understand and learn from other international health and safety standards, including the ILO and OSHA's. Then we can learn from them and we can implement. We are going to review those standards, and also we are going to review the overall occupational health and safety proclamations, directives, and as well as standards set by the Ministry of Labor and Organizations. And we're also going to identify, based on the standards, we are going to identify the gaps, and fast forward, we are going to give a practical recommendations. So next slide. So, as you know, that occupational hazards in construction sector is the second risk factors for most of the workers to be injured, or we can hear that a person is like fall from a building, from nine tower building. We can hear all the news all around. The place that we go, and we just assume that it's just normal, and we are losing manpower, we are losing workforces. And in Ethiopia, the construction sector has a good role in increasing the country GDPs, and providing a lot of infrastructures that we see in Addis nowadays. And this has to be balanced, and the economic growth should be balanced with how the workforce our health and safety is maintained. And according to the ILO, and with the joint force of the World Health Organization, has defined what occupational health and safety really means. So according to that, it is promotion and maintaining of the highest degree of physical, mental, social, and well-being of a worker in all occupation. It means if we consider a person is healthy, he has to have a high degree of physical, mental, and social being while doing performing a job at a workplace. He has to be healthy. He has to be working on a safe working environment, and that is what how the ILO defined. In according to the ILO, is an international labor organization, which is the working under the United Nations agency. So basically, the aim of the ILO is to promote the social and the economic justice by setting out structure of the international labor standard. So among that, 80% of the ILO standards focus on occupational health and safety, and we are going to review that on the next slides. Next. Next. So basically, no, go back. Can you go back? Okay, thank you. So, according to the ILO reports, about 40 up to 50% of the global population is a labor force, and in our Ethiopia context, the labor force growth is much greater than the population growth every years, where the labor forces accumulate to 9.3%, and which is relatively a great. We have a greater labor forces, and according to the ILO, as a worker spend half of his time in workplaces, and he could be exposed to a different hazards in that could potentially kill or injure that persons. And according to the ILO, they highlighted that the people or the workforce spending much of their time in the workplace, they will get injured. So if we set a line or a standards or a management system, it is the best way, it's the best condition to promote health of that worker in that occupational area. So the ILO believes that the workplace is the ideal place for has a promotion and has advocacy. So next slide. So when we go to the back the history how the occupational health and safety developed, the main role that played was the ILO establishment, which was in 1919 under the UN, and they set a lot of labor standards, conventions, and also a decent work initiatives. In these standards, the conventions shapes how a person can work in an environment safely, and how the employer can maintain that worker to be safe at the same time to do the business more effectively and efficiently. So this standards in the convention helps how the business runs at the same time without compromising the worker health and safety. So the countries who are a member of the ILO will ratify the labor standards laws, and according that they can modify based on their national criteria, and they can use it as continuous management systems. So next slide. Next next slide, please. Okay, thank you. So I just want to ask you, I hope there are many health and safety professional attendees here, and we have to ask ourselves why the occupational health and safety is mandatory, or why don't we just work without having some procedures, having some rules, having some enforcement that the job can be done, but why what do we lose? We have to ask as a business owner, as a contractor, as someone who are involving in a project, is will ask why do I have to implement occupational health and safety. It is it's mandatory because a person who is normal, who is healthy, will come to your job workplace, and he can get injury, he can get disabled, he can get even he can die. So as a moral responsibility for an organization, you have to consider that a person is working for you, for he's adding value to your organization. At the same time, you have to keep the he have to keep his safety as well. So a moral responsibility is you consider what is good and what is bad, and as a human, you have to consider that someone should not die in your workplace because of your negligence, because you are not investing or you are not committed to any health and safety management, to implement any of the health and safety management or procedure. So it is a moral responsibility. The first one that we should all think about is, while we are planning to implement this one, it is a moral responsibility. As a person, a normal person should not get injury, or they should not be disabled. So one of is the moral responsibility. The second is the economical reason. So as we invest a lot because of accident happen, injury happens, and we are going to invest a lot of money for recovery. So we're going to lose a lot of money, investment, resource, and equipment as well. And also, it's a legal requirement. So if a person is injured or disabled, you're going to be you are going to be liable for any legal issues. So these are the three arguments is why occupational health and safety should be managed. Second, please. Second page. So there are also misconceptions about implementing OSH in the businesses. So many of the investors will consider the OSH as a trade, because you're going to invest resources, you're going to invest a commitment, you are going to invest the time, you are going to invest in hiring a professional. So investing, you will consider, if I invest little, then I have to get more of advantage. It's not like that. The amount of investment you apply to occupational health and safety, you are going to benefit more. Not it cannot be clearly visible for a time being, but as a company, you're going to benefit because of if the health and safety of a worker is maintained, he's going to be motivated. He will have high energy to do work efficiently, effectively. So your product will be very in a quality way, because health and safety is also a way of quality assurance. As you do a good investment on OSH, your business also will grow. So it's the same as adding value to your business. So next slide, please. So, as I have mentioned before, why do we implement OSH? Is it because of is this coming from the customer requirement, is from the contractor requirement, is, or is very mandatory from to apply from the national requirement, is, or is because of many international organizations are coming here in Ethiopia? So, what is the basic reason why implement OSH? And as I have mentioned clearly, it's because of health and safety is a fundamental human right, and you have to obey and comply with that. Next. So it's the same as if you invest a lot on occupational health and safety, you're going to minimize a risk, and it's like a balance. So as you invest more, the risk will reduce and your profit will increase as well. The amount of time lost because of a person's injury, the amount of time lost for accident investigation, the time lost for a person to process a medical treatment. These all are the hidden costs or the hidden risks if an accident or if a risk happens. So a restricted occupational health, if we have a set of requirements, standards, or procedures outlined, we can minimize those indirect risks, and at the same time, we are going to have a good business as a general. So there are many organizations which are international, which at the same time promote, advocate, and set many standard guidelines to improve occupational health and safety practice all around the world. And among that is the ILO, as I have mentioned before. So it promotes occupational health and safety through guidelines, through standards and advocacy. And also the WHO also are the one of the organizations that promote the workplace health and safety. There are also European Agency for Health and Safety at Workplace, which are based on Europe, and promote the health and safety at work. There are also associations, and there are also OSHA, which is an Occupational Health and Safety Administration, primarily found on U.S. agency. It will collaborate with other agencies, institutions, just to promote and addresses any OSH issues. In our context, the organization that represent occupational health and safety is the Ministry of Labor and Skill. Next. So, as I said, occupational health and safety is a multidisciplinary science. So it consists of different profession, because the industry is different, the technology is different, and based on that, you have to learn the types of risks, the potential risks, the dynamic risks, while you have working on different industries. And because of that, the disciplinary is very diverse and dynamic, and the safety engineer, the ergonomists, the industrial hygienes, occupational medicines, the occupational health and nursing are one of the multidisciplinary sciences that or you can call it a profession for working on health and safeties. So here in Ethiopia, we don't have any occupational medicines. We just only have medical doctors. So specifically, if data assumes that a person is working and he could be exposed with different hazardous substances, chemicals, and that disease cannot be identified if you are a medical doctors, but we need an occupational medicines on industries, on different industries to identify and treat the patient is while he's engaging on, as I say, hazardous risks. He could be exposed and he should be treated. And this because of we don't have this one, the problem comes when a person is claiming a legal issue. So when he is like claiming a legal issue, he cannot justify that this is came from workplace. Let's say, for example, the person is exposed to asbestosis. So he will be sick after a long period of time, maybe because of the disease is chronic. He will be exposed to a long-term exposure, then that person will get sick and may leave the workplace. But he cannot claim the legal issue or the courts because of he engaged in that hazardous workplace. He is exposed to asbestosis or name it, the hazard risks, he cannot claim it. And we, as we are going to review the directive, you cannot claim any issues, but this will create a gap because of the lack of occupational medicine discipline or profession. We're going to have a lot of gaps while claiming the right of the worker right. So next. So the ILO states celebrates each year's workplace health and safety. Last year was on April 27, I guess. It was celebrated, and the motto was that the health and safety is the human right, a fundamental human right, because you have to ask yourself if that person is injured because of he engaged in the work activity. He should not die. As a human person, we have a moral responsibility, and that moral responsibility should be guided with a legal requirements. And the ILO declares that the occupational health and safety is a mandatory and a fundamental human right, and it will be celebrated this year on April 28, 2025. I hope many of health and safety professionals will join this celebration. Next. So we're going to just review overall. There are basically two convictions that are related with occupational health and safety. So the first one is the occupational health and safety 155, and the other is the occupational health and safety 187, which this conviction will gives a guidelines how an organization runs occupational health and safety systems across the top management to the lower workforce. And we're going to see what basically this conviction will rise, and we're going to discuss on the next place. Next, next, please. So the Conviction 155 says that an organization, or maybe on a national level, if the nation accept or ratify the Conviction 155, he has to have a policy approach to OSH. As you know, for a company to have a policy, he has to understand why he is implementing, why he is trying to do, because you have to clearly state, if I am going to implement occupational health and safety, what is the motive behind it, and what is the responsibility of the employer, what is the responsibility of the employee, what is the collective responsibility across working together, and what is the commitment of the management, what are the resources provided, and the policy has to state this one. And if we ratify the Conviction 155, it states we have to have a policy approach to implement occupational health and safety. It could be on a national wise or maybe an enterprise level. And the Conviction 187 also deals with how do we improve our occupational health and safety management systems? What are the requirements for continuous to see a continuous improvement on occupational health and safety? This is basically continuous improvements means a safety culture. So if we have a safety culture, this safety culture will have to be improved from time to time. Injury should be reduced, lost time should be reduced, and we have to see changes in each in each year or in each interval. So, as a management, we have to have a continuous improvement of OSH by applying the policy, the organization policy, the national, maybe. Not only having our own policy, but we have to comply with the national system, with the national program, with the national standards. So this will also increase the improvements. So the Convention 155 Africa nations, there is 76 member states that that has ratified the Convention 155, and among that 20 29% is contribute to the African nation, and among 5% is of the African nation has ratified Convention 187, and among that Ethiopia has also ratified 155 and 187. Next. Next. So, if the convention also outlines that there should be an authority or responsible body to enforce and to advocate and promote OSH, and about 28% of the OSH bodies are like housed in a Ministry of Labor. In our context, as I told you, it is represented by Ministry of Labor and Skill. So this authority have the power to enforce, to inspect, to evaluate, to audit, and to give guidelines to have a proper OSH implementation. So the ILO Convention 155 and 187 outlines there should be an authority and responsible body accountable to OSH, and there are many also institution, advocacy groups, association which engage in advisory role and in doing researches, and this is the general responsible bodies. Next. And also the ILO convention states that there should be a tripartite body on OSH. This body is an advisory body which addresses all OSH issues. These are composed of from the government representative, from the employee representative, and the worker organization representative. And this could extend, or maybe there could be an additional parties that can involve in this tripartite. But the main focus is that this tripartite body will discusses the current issue and discusses on how to set a line to improve what on the ground. So as a nation, we have a tripartite body dealing with the OSH, and across the worldwide, about 80% of the African nation also complies with the tripartites. They have organization, advisory bodies. About 20% are in Africa, 90% of the European and found in the Central Asia, and 60% in Asia and Pacific, and 74 is majority in America. So, so the the conviction mainly. Okay, can you go back? So the convention states or requires for a national context to protect worker against any undue consequences. Uh, the employer or the worker has the right to remove himself from a work condition if he is not okay with that. If the person is engaging on the very high risks, he has the right to withdraw from that work. And the ILO convention states this, and as a member of states that has ratified this, will amend and comply with this requirement. This is how the ILO address these issues. Next. Next, please. So the base, no, can you go back? Okay. Yes. So, as I said, also the convention requires a health and safety committee. So, the health and safety committee, we don't see much of the health and safety representative in Ethiopia because having to construct OSH committee, at least you have to have a health and safety officer on site, and we don't comply with that. And yeah, if we are uh, if we are like discussing on this convention, it is ideal, but on the ground, it requires an OSH committee for any activity. It says for any industry, for any work, there should be an OSH committee. These OSH committee are organized from the representative of employer, uh, the employee, and other concerned bodies. So at the workplace, they are going to discuss any OSH issue and address that matter. So the convention says there has to be a OSH committee. Next. So having said this or discussing on the standards requirements, I just want to ask, where are we now as are we really implementing health and safety? Are our workforce is healthy? Are they are free from any risk? We will discuss on that. Next. Next, please. So for in Ethiopian context, Ethiopia has like ratified 23 convention, and that has been enforced. So, as you can clearly see, there are 23 convictions, and among them, there are 9 fundamental convictions that basically deals on the right of employment, uh, the, the right of to organize in collective bargaining, the freedom of association, and abolishment of any unsafe or workers, the minimum age of convictions, and generally the one that basically deals with health and safety conviction is 155, and we have also one governance conviction, which is, as the ILO said, the tri-party consultation, and we also ratified 13 technical convictions, and we have also a directive, OSH directive, and we have also labor proclamation 1156, which basically gives a detailed guideline how to implement those labor standards. And we have also standards Ethiopia building called standard construction health and safety, and we are going to review that later on. Next. So there is some of the report is done by the ILO on the decent work on each countries. And for Ethiopia, we have a decent work standards, and there are many requirements, and there are also regulatory bodies that monitors this decent work at place. Just to highlight among this one, the decent hour. So let's focus on the decent hour. This is how they set line for how many how much a person can engage on the work activity. So if that person is engaging more than 8 hour or above that, will that person be exposed to risks? It will give us a guideline. If that person is engaging in very loud noises, is that good for him just to engage for like 8 hour or above? This is crucial, because if that person is working exceeding the exposure limits, he will going to be exposed to the risks, because the exposure limits will affect this. Let's say a person is working on very high machineries or boilers, and he could be exposed to like 90 decibels and above. And during that exposure, he will be at risk of hearing induced because of the longer hour exposure. And the decent hour sets a guideline. If that person is working, what requirement should be set? There should be a work rotation or work shift, or what are the requirements in this decent hour? Explain more about it. It also the decent work also deals with equal opportunity and treatment in employment. Is what activity should be abolished. For example, the mining industry, we have a very high risk job, and many people die because of the collapse, and many people use very hazardous substances, chemicals like mercury, and a lot of poisonous lead. And without knowing or having a proper procedure, they are exposed very highly. And there are some activities that should be abolished or removed, and these decent work sets guidelines for that. So these are just the evidences that I get while I was reading the maximum working hour and uh, the labor standards. So next. So the OSH directive has clearly pointed out the many requirements like okay. So the directive sets out requirements for each industries. For example, it gives a requirement health and safety requirements for agricultural sectors, for hazardous jobs, for health construction sectors, and specific occupational process requirements for each activities, and what should be the normal work health and safety condition or should be. For example, we the for a workplace, you have to assess is how the workplace is. For example, the site, is it a good house keeping? Is there any good housekeeping? Is there any good illumination or light? Is that person exposed to any risks? He has to work on a safe working environment, and that environment should be also be assessed and addressed. And also the directive sets out responsibility, duties, and the duty of other stakeholders, and also the responsibility of an inspector. So next slide, please. So these duties and responsibility under the Proclamation 11556 says that the worker and the worker and the employee should obey or have the duty to comply occupational health and safety. And as you can see, this is the Ethiopian proclamation, and it says the employer to comply with occupational health and safety requirement provided under the proclamation. And also it says an obligation for workers to comply. It means to cooperate to a work procedure and to inform any unsafe acts if there is any incident or any injuries, and to make sure to use an appropriate health and safety device and equipment. So it also sets the responsibility for stakeholders. These stakeholders can be contractors, architects, designers, and other suppliers, clients, to follow the health and safety, to promote and to comply. So while designing, risk should be identified, occupational health and safety should be identified. While delivering a service, that service should not harm a people, should not harm the worker. And all individual or all stakeholders has the responsibility to play on promoting health and safety. Next. So there is also a responsibility of labor inspector under the national level. Under the Article 177 up to 182, it states the labor inspector has the legal power to inspect any workplaces, to conduct training, and to give advisory services, and to record data for a better to monitor the health and safety systems. So it outlines the basic responsibility as labor inspector. Next. So it also outlined a medical examination is very mandatory for a worker engaging in hazardous working condition. Just to ask you on this, do we, for any worker, including the casual working on construction sector, do we have a medical examination? Because that person could have many unseen problems medically, not healthy. He could have different diseases which might also aggravate the risks. Let's say the person is working on work at height, and he had an epilepsy. So we cannot examine that person with just an interview. We have to have his medical examination, whether to see that person is healthy or not, whether to approve for that person to engage in high risk activity. So we have to ask the question here, and for any engagement is in workplace, you should have a medical examination, and this will help you while auditing. We will evaluate these medical see this set by the directive. Next. So the national building code standards sets basic requirements for specific activities. The general health and safety requirements while engaging in scaffolding, while using ladder, while using lifting appliances, while doing excavation, while using the structural framework, concrete workers, or while engaging in handling different equipment, machines, and electrical equipment and installation. And it will gives us a clear direction and how to implement these general requirements. So the first one is the general and specific provision of site planning. So if we go to our working environment, we have to assess if that environment is good or appropriate. Is it safe? So there are some parameters we have to assess. For example, if that person is working on a confined place, we have to measure the temperature, the oxygen level, the other gases that can be found on a confined place. We have to see if that illumination is good or visible, that person is working under a good visibility of a work condition. So if that place is maintained in a good way, its sanitation is good, we have to assess our environment if it is suited enough or not. So if that engagement has a lot of people working, maybe it could be overcrowding more than let's say 50% working on a wooden scaffolding. So will that be a risk or not? So the site has to be assessed first, and specific requirements for that condition is, do we have an emergency evacuation plans? And these are the plans where if a risk happen, do we have other mitigation actions like an escape route or evacuation plan, an assembling point? A alarming, fire extinguisher, and we have to address that specific requirement is for a workplace. Next. So the general requirement is, as I said before, for scaffolding. Um, the funny part is many of I'm sure have seen walking by different wooden scaffolding, right? And this is not the standard way of working on scaffolding. So this comes with before the risk is not identified on the designing stage. So on the designing of the scaffolding, we have to assess the material we are using. Is the material is durable? Is the material has a loading capacity? We have to assess on that, and the qualified person should design the scaffolding. And the recent research shows that the majority of the subcontractor in Ethiopia uses uh, wooden scaffolding because of a lot of reasons and the challenges, and this material is not appropriate if it is not properly designed according to the standards. And there are many standards or guidelines on how to design scaffolding. And we are going if that risk is identified before planning, it would have been better. And this is the problem we are facing a lot of times, because we could have used a different material, or maybe we could have different technology as to prevent any accidents, but we use the cheaper one, and that will cost us a lot. And we have to on our design next on our design we have to assess the loading capacity of the scaffolding in the basement, in the foundation. Is it muddy? Is it even? Is it proper? And this is a responsibility of a competent person. And we are not even sure if majority of the scaffolding built in Ethiopia is done by a professional or not, and that is also a risk factor. And while also using or working close proximity to electrical power line, the scaffolding should not be conductive and should be at least placed within 3 meter below the electrical lines. And we have to assess different parameter before using the scaffolding. And designing risk based designing is very important and crucial. Next. So while using the scaffolding, the best one is the metal scaffolding, the H-firm metal scaffolding. It has very high stability, and uh, that w- is not um, that's not even enough. It should have any protection devices like the guard layer or the two borders, which is required to protect the worker while working on that scaffolding. They should be protected, and they should have personal protective devices like the personal forarrest systems to attach the guard line and work properly. And while also using the scaffolding, we sometimes use
ኤደን ትንሽ ተቆራረጥሽ ድምፅሽ።
next. So as I have mentioned before, um, while doing any activity on uh, scaffolding, there are engagements of a worker. There we can there also has material usage, and there may many activity could be applied while moving around the scaffolding. In that scaffolding should that person should secure himself, because you cannot just feel safe because of we have only scaffolding. And the having overconfidence or being very experienced on working for many years is not an assurance. So a proper usage of fall arrest equipment is very mandatory. As you can clearly see the difference between two individual working on the construction work, and the one you see here sitting down and working without attaching himself, he is like 100% risks to fall, and there is nothing him stopping from falling. And this inappropriate action will cost his life. And as you can clearly see, even that person properly attach his harness, his he hooked his safety very fastened, and this is the proper way of attaching himself. But having said this, this is not the proper way how the should be proceed with the work, because the person is not considering his life. He's just hanging his life on just a wooden or a metal pole, and this gap came from because there is no regulatory or body or a competent HSE officer on site supervising these workers. And this will cost the person just to do any activity without permit to work. So he need a permit to work for activity, or the equipment is all the requirement should be fulfilled before proceeding the work, and a continuous supervision on site should be very mandatory. And note, the PPE is the last stage, by the way. The PPE is the last resort that we can implement, because we cannot have applied the higher level management or controlling system. And we have to carefully align and plan for any activity engaging in the higher risks as seen in this picture. Next. So there are also general requirements for lifting appliances. As mentioned before, the equipment that we use should be inspected regularly, should be inspected their capacity, their durability, if they are defect or corroded, if their loading capacity, if they can barely hang their maximum load capacity, or if they are stable enough. We have to inspect these devices prior to engaging in any activity, and you can clearly see from the patterns that uh, everything should be pre captured or pre surveyed or pre assessed early, and the design is very crucial part of risk management. And these devices can help you utilize many activity, but you have to know the equipment first, and you have to inspect their reliability before engaging. Next. 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 Okay, thank you. So I just want to show you how we are our culture is regarding to implementing the health and safety. And you can clearly see and observe the mis negligence, you can call it negligence, while the person is hanging on a wooden, you cannot even call it scaffolding, but just a wooden. So this is under construction, and there are many reasons why this is happened, and we just can't just point out the reasons one by one. The first one is because of there is a weak regulatory enforcement. As you can see in construction sector, many people die, mostly men. The prevalence of injury in Ethiopia reached up to 34%, up to 14, and the majority of the worker um, are the mains. And there is no regulatory enforcement or compliance on how to basically use a proper and a standard scaffolding system. And this has cost us a lot as a nation, and this is a very gap observed. The second is the material that we use for the building instructions, and uh, you can see the material as we have discussed before. Designing the scaffolding is the very pre-survey or pre-requirement is in the material we use is wooden, and every structure should be designed according to the standards. And there's also a lack of cheaper, because of the cheaper prices we just normally use this one, and because of the competent person, lack of competent person. Uh, I'm clearly want to show you if there is a competent person working on this specifically site, he will he will stop the work, or he will not allow the worker to proceed with the work, because uh, this is the not the right way of dealing or working, and a competent person is very important, and that competent person will supervise and will encourage for a proper procedure to be conducted, and lack of this one also is the problem. And the lack of inspection, as I said before, if we have a competent person, there will be an inspection, and a proper inspection will identify if that condition is good or not, if we need a maintenance, and this will outline the basic. The basic, for example, let's say inspection done in each week, in each month, we will see the pattern of the problem and we will address that issue. So limited PPE usage is also one of the problem, and this could be because of the lack of negligence not to wear the PPE provided, or because of lack of availability. And the other reason is because of like no or lack of health and safety training awareness among individual working on activity, and proper training is very crucial among among worker, among management, and awareness creation is very also important. And these are the gaps that we see mostly on engaging on construction activity, and this has cost us a lot. Next. So the general requirement for excavations. So there are many accidents occur during performing excavation activity, and that is because of the first one is the lack of site investigation or risk assessment. I'm not sure if there is a trend where risk is captured or identified during survey. So there is many parameters that we should see before starting excavation, because we have to see and assess the soil type, is the soil property, if there is any underground condition water, if there is any underground utility that might cause the person while engaging in excavation, he can contact with electrical equipment, and maybe he may die because of electrical hazard. And they have to be assessed prior before engaging in that activity. And while proceeding excavation, there has to be a supporting system to prevent collapse. So maybe a barricade or shoring should be designed properly just to avoid any collapse or load. And we have to also assess the slope stability based on the type of or the nature of the soil, and we have to critically design how to excavate. And next please. So um, in this we have to focus first. We have to have an emergency plan for caving incidents. So having assessing all the risks associated with excavation, a person can be exposed to many risks is like electrical, maybe not only on working on a confined place, he may be exposed to hazardous substances. He may fall from the edge of excavation, and he can. There are many scenarios, and we have to set a line, an emergency plan, and how to execute and maybe prevent this a severe outcome. And this is very important. And equipment of safety should be maintained, where majority of what we can observe after excavation, a very load equipment is including the crane stands besides the excavation area, and that also is a very risk for collapse of materials while the person are doing activity underneath the excavation area. So many things has to be assessed before. Next. So Uh, the third is the general requirement for structural framework and concrete work. 'Cause this is the picture I take yesterday. This is at beside my working building, and they are doing some activities and the structural, and they are filling concretes, and many activity was there. And I just want to just capture that, and to discuss this on designing the structure should be followed based on the requirements. I think there are many standards for doing or for formulating any activity there, and you have to follow that standards, and you have to, as I said before, investively do a risk assessment is on the designing, and using a temporary support is very a risk factor, and because the durability of that material will is very brittle, and it can collapse on workers. So uh, many situations can lead to poor designing, can cause us risks, and a proper design in loading capacity also should be addressed or assessed, and a safe access and safe fall protection should be aligned, and inspection also should be done by a competent person while doing the structural forms, while concrete filling, mixing, and also other activity. Next. So while mixing the concrete, I have I have I have done a mini next on the previous go back. Okay, I've done some projects on assessing the silica dust exposure. So we are not that much aware that the cement dust used for concrete work contains a silica dust, and this silica dust is a very hazardous substances. And once you are inhaling it, it has a crystal. Yeah, it has a crystal and have a very high impacts on your lung, and it can create a scar on your lung after a long exposure of that cement dust. And we don't usually maybe not aware, or we don't understand the impacts and the severity of this dust. And I have tried to assess the exposure, exposure level at individual level, where she is doing or mixing these cements. We assessed how much exposure she will inhale within 80 hour or below 80 hour. And uh, because of its small projects, we don't have a long period of time for data collection, but it shows us that person could be exposed more than the exposure limits while engaging in just only one day activity. And as you can next, as you can see in the pictures, next please, next. No, 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 go back. Yeah. So this is the pictures of the lung after exposure, a long exposure of silica dust. Is that person get a disease called silicosis. And as you can see, it's clearly the normal lung of that person, it will turn out like this one. It's going to be a dark spot which causes a scar in your lung. And after a long period of exposure, that person may um, uh, will suffer a chronic diseases like this one. And we don't understand how severe this really is, and we have to address also the the material that we are using for mixing. And we can see that if there is on any alternative way that we can minimize these risks. And I just want to show you how severe this exposure to the silica disk really uh, it really is. Next. So just to briefly discuss on the general requirement of using hand tool. The hand tool we use can be depends on the activity or the task we perform. So based on that, we have to inspect and the material that we're using. If we are using different machines, that different machine has to be well inspected, what causes they will contribute, are there ergonomically fit, are they handy or appropriate to work, is the personal protective devices are given or worn, and a proper storage has been designed for the tools to be properly stored. Are there any? You have to just have to have a requirement is to assess these hand tools to be properly used without causing any harm to any person. So next slide. For example, if we are next, yeah, if you are using different machines, let's say grinding, welding, and we don't see how it can cause a severe harm to our body, but it critically will impact us a lot, because without a proper health and safety procedure, if that person is engaging in this, he will be exposed to different injuries and diseases. So as you can see clearly the white hand picture here, it is because of that person has been engaging in maybe drilling or very machine that has a high vibration force, and because of the long exposure, however, he are exposed to this kind of severe injury, and this is it's a tragedy to see how these materials and equipment could lead a potential harm to a person. So this also should be maintained while doing different activity involving in machines. Health and safety procedures should be also followed and implemented as well. Next. So this is to show you that if you see the pictures here, you don't question um, this machine will not contribute to a risk. But since this is a motion that if a car is moving, it has motion, and this vibration causes the body to have to absorb the forces. And as you can clearly see, the vibration is a three-dimensional, and it will uh, it will move or spread to your every body, including, and this whole body vibration also contribute to different injuries like back pain and muscles cramps, and it will contribute to the yeah, injuries. And even the machines and the tool we used should be assessed and identify the risks and should be set a control action. Next. Next, please. So we are coming to our conclusion. Why are we not improving? So the first is because of we have no health and safety policy or health and safety management system. So any organization should have occupational health and safety. There should be a guiding principle on how to implement those, and from policy it should be it should not be only an implementation, but it should also have to be a continuous improvement during planning and implementation. You have to measure the parameter if we are doing a good OSH procedure or not, and those variables or that parameter, for let's say the key performance parameter, should be quantified and measured, and also evaluate uh, those changes, and those activities should also be audited, and also these audits reports, the findings, the gap should be also addressed, and it should also be planned again. And this is the basic structure, is the head in the structure, and it will help for our organization to function properly. If a worker is well known about the health and safety policy, he is well known of the risks he is engaging with, and the risk is communicated among all the individual, including the external stakeholders. And having a policy is very mandatory, and this is why we lack a change, that we don't see a change because we don't have a clear OHS policy and management system. And this is the first reason. Next. Next, please. So the gap is observed also in the standard, in the directive, is because of there is a data gap or a reporting system where we don't have any information on the severity of one's occupation. There are many researches done on the construction sector, but do we know how much risks or injuries happening in other industries, let's say other informal industries? So for our context, there is no let's say not no, but there is less data that tells us where we are and in what is expected to change. And because of there is a gap on reporting system, the reporting of incidents, is reporting of injuries, reporting of, as I said, the health and safety performance of one's organization. There is no track to see the change. And the second reason is the informal sectors are not included in this occupational health and safety. And these these informal sectors are not addressed well because as I told you before, there is a gap on implementing the health and safety. It's focused on well-known industries, as in other informal sectors are not well addressed. As you go, for example, if you go to a garage, you don't expect the health and safety procedure to be applied, right? So there are these sectors are not really informed or not included in these standards. There are also what we can see is majority of the casuals that we use during our on construction sectors are underage, and this is uh, very a challenge because there are the standards, the labor standard has set uh, an employment range where a young person can engage with high risk activities or not, and it is not really addressed, not only addressed, but we don't apply the labor the child labor standards. And this is what we can see on the construction sector. And um, and then the labor inspection, as I told you, there is a limited labor inspector in us across the national wide. And um, lack of training is very a gap because as you can clearly see, uh, any individual working on the site, he didn't get the training, he get the experiences because he has been working for a long period of time. And without a proper training and awareness, he's engaging on high risk activity. And for the standards outlines that the employer should provide a training and awareness sessions to a worker engaging on any activity, so that worker should have the ability to identify risk, ability to have a control system in his mind. He has to address and even questions the employer to not engage on that activity. And the training will help that individual to proceed with their work properly. And there is also lack of an awareness. There is no mandate even for a company to enforce a worker to get a training. If that organization is not a standard, we don't mind or consider for giving priority for a training or capacitating a worker. So this also a gap that is observed. So the other reason is the involvement of every individuals. So majority of what we see is it the organization is led by the employer, right? So as I told you before, there is no OSH committee that addresses any issues. There is no inspector that enforces for the non-compliance observed. And if each parties plays their role, and if each party contributes their values, then there might be a change, right? So that is the really gap observed in this implementation issue. So the other reasons is basically I have addressed the risk mitigations are not well addressed in designing stage. Each project is operation is just function without a pre-survey or a risk assessment. That is a very gap we observe, and because of the lack of health and safety committee and has and certified health and safety professional, it is a mandatory to have a health and safety officer on site supervising and instructing, enforcing the employee to make sure they are safe. And there is a clear gap on the availability of a skilled health and safety professional. And nowadays there are many health and safety professional across Ethiopia and across the nations, and that is a very good and a bright future uh, to make a change on this sector. So, and um, the other reason can be a weak consequence management system, as I have mentioned before, because of the poor enforcement from the national level up to the organization. There is no enforcement test. For example, there is no enforcement test if that person is using less standard material, then that work should not proceed. There is no guideline or an enforcing requirements or statements for a person to proceed with the work or not. If that person is non-compliant or providing um, not providing or compliance with health and safety requirements, work should not be done. That should be the statement saying there is no any consequence management if that person fails to not to meet the health and safety standards. It should be eliminated from any businesses. And this weak consequence management has opened the door for many individuals or organization just to do the workers without applying any health and safety management. And majority of has been discussed previously, and I don't want to take more of the time. Do we have any page left? Okay. So I hope I have finished, and I'm sure I haven't taken much of your time, right?
Thank you, Aidan. Thank you very much for the
Engineer
very
Ramanel.
very detailed and insightful presentation about the health and safety guidelines, standard, history, what to do even the EBCS is covered. And I see you have blended into the ILO, NABOSH, IOSH, OSHA, and other standards. And this is just the beginning. This is one of the first webinars we are going to have on health and safety. And if you have any questions on the issues raised in the presentation to Miss Aidan, you can share it here. Also, if you want to discuss further more about the industries and health and safety, you can use English and Amharic, and you can comment or suggest or reflect your experience here. So you can raise your hands, and when the when the hand is given to you, you can unmute yourself, open the video and ask the questions. Let me stop the sharing so that I can see you. So if anybody have the questions, this now is the time to share it or comment or suggestion. I see lots of questions on the comments, and it's better if you speak it out loud here. You can አማርኛ መጠቀም ይቻላል።
ሄሎ አማን ይሰማል?
እንዴት ነው ጆሲ? ትቀጥላለህ?
አለን። ኤደን ኦንላይን ካለች የሆነ ጥያቄ ነበረኝ መጀመሪያ ያነሳችው።
ኦኬ ቼክ ላድርግ። ቼክ ላድርግ።
እሺ
ኦኬ ተቋርጦባት ይሆናል።
አለው
አለሽ? ኦኬ
So
ቪዲዮአችሁን ኦን አድርጉና ትችላላችሁ። ብቻዬን ላደርግ።
my first question is the occupational medicine and health page 12 ላይ እና 15 ላይ ነበር መሰለኝ. That's a big gap. That's a really big gap for me. So we have all these organizations በቃ እነዚህ ትልልቅ ድርጅቶች ምናምን አሉን አገር ውስጥ እና why are we allowing organizations to continue, as in like why are we allowing organizations to do chemical related manufacturing works and everything if workers can't claim work related disease and illnesses, but we're allowing them to continue this sort of work? It's really concerning. So and then when you go back to page 33, there is a duty of care by the employer, which to me it tells me that okay, if you've got workers that are doing hazardous activities that relates to chemical, then why don't they have some sort of plan in place? And is the regulator enforcing this? Are they monitoring it? And we've got a lot of people that work in the manufacturing industry, like for example the painting industry, and you've got people working in the mattress industry where there's a lot of chemical involved. And if these workers are not able to claim anything that's related to work, so I don't understand. Is there anything going on from the regulator, Eden, if you have any input on that?
So thank you for your question. So basically, clearly there is a gap, a clear gap on the enforcement. So as I have clearly shown you or discussed on the right of the employer just to say no to a work if that work is dangerous, right? So, but as you have said, many activity has a high risks. So that individual has a right. Of course, the law says so, the standard says so, but they cannot claim their rights because a lack of enforcement is. You have mentioned hazardous industries like the paints, right? There are many hazardous jobs in using pesticides, and there are many recent researches done, and even the hazardous chemicals they are using are not clearly known. There's no standard clearly shown whether that chemical is safe or not. And this shows us a clear gap. There is no regulatory body that monitors even the type of substance they are using, right? And this is very, very a critical gap. And from what I have known and from what I have observed, like you, there is a lack of enforcement. The regulatory body has to say and maybe has to promote and has to stand to worker rights. So there is a clear gap on the enforcement. There is a clear gap on these issues are not addressed as a committee. As I showing you, there is an OSH committee, and those committee address these issues. And this issue will be discussed with the regulatory body, with the concerned body on how to manage these issues. And you have clearly asked me these risks are not mitigated and the people are just engaging on works, and this could be addressed if there is a strong enforcement regulatory body that promotes or advocates, as well as if there is an OSH committee with with a competent individual addressing these risks, and there is a clear gap on that. That is what I can say.
Thank you, Eden.
Thank you. Eden.
Another question?
Thanks.
Another questions? To add to this, we also face lack of professionals, as Eden mentioned in the presentation. We lack the right professionals in the sector. Right, Eden?
Yes, of course. Yes, there is a gap on professional, but nowadays there is an improvement. As there are many organizations that are standardized or international organizations that requires competent health and safety officers on site. But that is not an issue because we have like a large number of industries where we are not limited to any construction industry, but there are many factories, industries, processes, and those activity needs qualified and competent health and safety officers to supervise, to manage, to address any OSH issues, and there is a clear gap on limited professional. Yes, of course, as Emmanuel mentioned.
Yeah, as a new development, there is this new building proclamation which penalize people up to 15 years if such accidents happen in later times, if somebody died and nobody is going to be responsible, and it will be only covered by the insurance. But now there is a new development, but as you mentioned, we still lack on the implementation. If anybody have any questions, you can forward it here or ask the question. Unmute your room. Unmute and you can ask. We have a few minutes. Thank you, Mr. Sa from Bahar. If you have any questions, Abarra asked. Okay, somebody asked you that what is the biggest challenge you are facing as OSH manager? Do you want to share that or?
Um,
Miss Eden.
okay. It's okay. So the biggest challenge is comes with my first slides. Why would we implement occupational health and safety? What's the motive behind it? If the motive is good, then all the management is and the resources and everything will be provided to you. There's no hassle. But since many, as I have told you before, it is considered as a trait because yeah, as organization will not consider health and safety will increases the business performance. So one of the challenges is why do we implement? What's the motive behind it? And if that says so, if the policy clearly show or guides you on or clearly show you the motive behind implementing health and safety, it will help you a lot. But if that is not the intended use, and it will be a hassle because it needs resource, it needs systems, it needs a leadership commitment to implement the best practice of health and safety. And if I address your question well, it is the challenge is how an organization consider or the motive behind implementing health and safety. That's what I can say.
Thank you, Aidan. If there are any other questions, please share it you. ጥያቄ ያላችሁ ካለ ጥያቄዎችን እንጠይቅና አንድ 5 ደቂቃዎች ቀርተውናል።
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Yes, thank you, Aidan, for your explanation, for your clarification. One very important problem, apart from what you have mentioned, is that even the capable ones that have been employed are influenced by the contractor. You know, yes, there is a lack of experienced OSHA experts in some cases, but even the most capable ones are much influenced by the contractor because they are its employees. That is the challenge from my experience. And of course, it is considered as a cost, but still, you know, we can do a lot to tackle this problem. The contractor could be forced to allocate a certain amount of money for that purpose. Of course, that's not the case in the Ethiopian law, but in the future, I think this has to be considered as one of the solutions to the carelessness of contractors, I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abera, for your suggestion. Yes, you are right. We see contractors that are not promulgating the rules of the health and safety, and one of the things they are raising is the bill of quantity does not cover that issue, but there is some work in progress in the parliament and in general, and I think as Ada mentioned, like work like ምንድነው ሴፍቲውን መጠቀም ወጪያችንን በሆነ ፐርሰንት ይቀንሰዋል በጣም ኢቭን ዞ ጋራንቲድ ባይደረግም በዛም ማለት ነው ኮምፒታንሲም ይጨምራል ጥራትንም ይጨምራል እና ከሱም አንፃር አለው ግን there is also another directives ከዚህ ከህንፃዎች ተከትሎ የሚወጡ አሉ እዛ ላይ አድሬስ ይደረጋሉ እንደ ፖይንት አውት ለማድረግ ያለው በአንተ ላይ ለመጨመር ሌሎች ጥያቄ ካላችሁ
አንድ ጥያቄ አለኝ።
እሺ ቀጥሉ።
Many construction projects in Ethiopia operate without proper safety measures, such as safety nets and hazard management protocols. This lack of enforcement puts workers lives at risk and compromises overall project safety.
Oh, sorry. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself and continue, please. Lelisa.
Okay.
Lelisa, ድጋሚ ጠይቃል።
What role should the Ethiopian Association of Civil Engineers play in addressing these critical safety issues? Because many construction projects in Ethiopia operate without proper safety measures. So, as Ethiopian Association of Civil Engineers, what can we do? Can't we? Or how can the Ethiopian Association of Civil Engineers ensure that safety is not just a guideline, but mandatory standard enforced across all construction projects? ማለት የፈለኩት አሁን እዚህ ላይ አማኑኤል ይቅርታ፣ ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ ብዙ ፕሮጀክቶች ከሴፍቲ ውጭ ነው እየተሰሩ ያሉትና ቢያንስ በወር አንዴ ሰደንሊ ፕሮጀክት ላይ ወጥተን እንደ ኢትዮጵያን አሶሲዬሽን ኦፍ ሲቪል ኢንጂነርስ የምናይበትና ለሬጉላቶሪ ሪፖርት የምናደርግበት ሚንስ ይኖራል የሚል ጥያቄ ነበረኝ።
ኦኬ ያው ለወደፊቱ እኛም አቅማችንን አሳድገን እኛ እንደዚህ አይነት የተለያዩ ትሬኒንጎችን እያዘጋጀን ራሳችንን ለማሳደግ እየሞከረን ነው። ግን ያው ማህበር በራሳችን ማዕከል ስለሆነ እስናት ዛት ስትሮንግ ግን ለወደፊቱ እንደሱ እናደርጋለን። ከሌላው ዓለም ልምድ ግን አንድ መሐንዲስ አንድ ሳይት ላይ በሚገባበት ሰዓት ላይ ሴፍቲ ያልተጠበቀ ከሆነ አይገባም፣ ሪፖርት ይደረግና መንግስት ያስቆመዋል። ፎር አወር ኬስ እንደሱ አይነት ነገሮች የለም። ፎር ዛት ማተር መኪና የምናቆምባቸው ቦታዎች ላይ አንዳንድ ጊዜ ቀለም ተረሽቶ ልናይ እንችላለን። ይሄ ቀላሉ የሚባለው የሴፍቲ ፕሮብሌም ማለት ነው። ከዛ ውጭ ያው ብዙ ኤክስፖዠሮች አሉ። ኤደን እንዳለችው ሎንግ ተርም ሾርት ተርም አጥንተን ስለማናያቸው ነው እንጂ ከሳምባ ከምን አሁን በየቢሮችን አጠገብ ብዙ ሳይቶች አሉ እና ከርቴኖቹን ባለመጣላቸው ምክንያት ለብዙ ነገር ኤክስፖዝ እንደረጋለን። የሲልኮሲስ ነገር ያለችው እና ብዙ ነገሮችን አድሬስ ማድረግ ይቻላል እና ሲቪል ኢንጂነሪንግ አሶሲዬሽን ዊ አር ፕሮሞቲንግ ለርኒንግ ኤክስፒሪየንስ ሼሪንግ ላይክ ኤክስፐርትስ ኢንዱስትሪ ላይ ካሉት ውስጥ እዚህ ሙያ ላይ ስፔሻላይዝ ያደርጉ ፎር ኤግዛምፕል አይደን በዚህ ላይ ማስተርስም ኢንተርናሽናል ሰርቲፊኬትም ግሎባል ስታንዳርድ ላይ ያለች ስለሆነ ሼር አድርገን እያዘጋጀን ያለ ነው። በዛ መልክ እንሄድና ለወደፊቱ ግን ይህንን አንዳንድ ካምፓኒዎች የተወሰኑ ምናልባት በስራው በቴክኒካል ላይ በደንብ ሲገነባ ተተግብሯል ወይም ሲታደስም እዛ ውስጥ አሉ። አንዳንድ ተቋማቶች ሄደን ጎብኝተን እንትን የምንልበት ሴሽኖች ይኖሩናል። ከዛ ውጭ ግን ህጎች በሚወጡበት ቅድም ለማንሳት እንደሞከርኩት ሄደን እየተከራከርን ነው እና if you are interested if anybody is interested በናሽናል ሌቭልም በከተማ እያንዳንዱ ከተማ ሌቭልም ሄደን እንዳለችው ኮሚቴዎች ተዋቅረው ፖሊሶች መውጣት መቻል አለባቸው እስከ ኦርጋናይዜሽን እስከ ካምፓኒ። ከዛ the one responsible for the safety is myself እና አናጺ የመታው ሚስማር ላይ እኔ አሁን አላልፍም ስለማቅ ማለት ነው። ሉዝ ነው ኢስናት እድል ነው። ብዙ የሞቱ ሰዎች አሉ እና የምናውቃቸው ብዙ ነገሮች አሉ። ያን ነገር እንደዚህ በመፍትሄዎችን የምንፈጥርበት ፕላትፎርሞችን ክሬት እናደርጋለን። ግን ስቲል ቱጌዘር ዊ ካን ነው ሁሉም ሰው ኢንቮልቭ ሆኖ በደንብ በሚሰራበት ጊዜ ነው ይሄ ነገሮች ሊመጡ የሚችሉት። ሆፕ መልሼዋለሁ። ሌሊሳ ሌላ ጥያቄ? በጣም ኢምፖርታንት ኩዌሽንስ እየተነሱ ነው ያሉትና ሴፍቲ የራሳችን ኢሹ ነው እና ብዙ አደጎች እየደረሱ ነው። ኢቨን አፈሮችም ተደርምሰው መንገዶች እየጠጡ ያ ነገሮች አሉ እና ይህ ነገር በዚህ ከቀጠለ ዊኔቨር ነው ላይክ ቢልዲንግ ኢዝ ኤ ታይም ቦምብ ይላሉ ዶክተር መሰለ። በስርዓት ካልተሰራ ዩኔቨር ነው ፌል አድርጎ ማን ሊጎዳ እንደሚችል ለክርስትናም ለሆነ ነገርም ለሆነ ኢቨንትም እዛ ህንፃ ላይ ልንገባ እንችላለን። ያ ጥሩ ነው ይሄ ጥሩ መጥፎ ነው የምንለው ህንፃ የለም። ባይዘው አትሰም ፔሪድ ኦፍ ታይም እዛ ሆነ የመሬት መንቀጥቀጥ ወይ ክሬን ሲያልፍ ራሱ በሱ ቫይብሬሽን ፌል ሊያደርግ የሚችል ህንፃ አንዳንድ ብዙ አዲስ አበባ ውስጥ 1 5 ህንፃ እርዝኩዊክ ሳይነካቸው በራሳቸው ፌል ያደርጉ አሉ። እና ያ ነገሮች ስላሉ በዛ መልኩ መሄድ እንችላለን። ጥያቄዎች ካላችሁ ፕሊዝ። 10 ደቂቃ ነው የቀረን፣ ተኩል ላይ ነው የምንጨርሰው። ከኛ ኢሹ ጋር ሪሌትድ የሆኑትን የስ ከናንተ ትክክል። ኮሜንት ላይም ብዙ እርስ በርስ እየተመላለሰም ያለ ጥሩ ኮሜንቶችም አሉ። እሱንም እያያችሁት ኤልሳ የማህበራችን ቮለንቲር ሰርተፍኬት አዘጋጅታለች። ማህበሩን መደገፍ ከፈለጋችሁ ሰርተፍኬቶቹን ወጪዎች በመሸፈን መውሰድ ትችላላችሁ። 09012500 ላይ ግሩፕ ላይ ፖስት አድርገናል። ሰርቲፊኬሽን ኦፍ ፓርቲሲፔሽን ኦልዌይስ ይኖራል። Anybody? If you don't have any questions, thank you, Mr. Psa. A helmet on your hand keeps you from from the being dead. Okay, thank you. ሶ ቪዲዮአችንን ኦን አድርገን ሼር እናደርገው። ሰመራይዝ ላደርገው ነበረ፣ ነገር ግን ኦልሬዲ ሁላችሁም የምታውቁት ነገር ስለሆነ ብዙ ነገሮች ተነስተዋል። ከዚህ ጋር ብዙ ኢንተርናሽናል ሰርተፊኬቶች አሉ። ከነዚህ ጋር የተያዙ ድጋፎች ከፈለጋችሁ በእኛ በኩል ኤደንን ማግኘት ትችላላችሁ። ይሄ መጀመሪያው አይደለም፣ ከዚህ በፊት ማዘጋጀት ወደፊቱም ይቀጥላል። የሄልዝ ኤንድ ሴፍቲ፣ እርዝኩዊክ እንዲሁም ሌሎች ዌብናሮች አሉ። ትራንስፖርት፣ በዚህ ከትራንስፖርት ጋር ተያይዘው 2 ይኖራሉ። የሚቀጥለው ላይም ተሳተፉ፣ ሰርተፍኬትም ውሰዱ። ሶ ቪዲዮ ኦን አድርገን ለሊንክድኢን ፖስት ቻው እንባባል። በጣም ቴንክ ዩ ሜድ ኢት ፖሲብል ኢንጂነር ኤደን። በዚህ አጋጣሚ ሼር ማድረግ የምትፈልጉት ነገር ካለ ለርኒንግ ኤክስፒሪየንስ የሙያ ማህበር እስከሆነ ድረስ ዊ ዶንት ኒድ ኤኒ ፋንሲ ወርድስ ሼር ማድረግ እንችላለን። እንደዚህ አይነት ዙም ፕላትፎርም ኦልሬዲ ፔድ ስለሆነ በዚህ ፕላትፎርም ላይ ማንኛውንም ነገር ሼር ማድረግ ትችላላችሁ። እኔን ወይ ኤልሳን ኮሚኒኬት አድርጉ። ቴንክ ዩ። 8 ሰው ብቻ ነው የሚታየኝ ወይንስ ከእንትኔ ነው ከሴታፕ ነው? ቆይ እንዳትሄዱ። ጋለሪ ነው። ቴንክ ዩ የምስራች። መስከረም ጋር መሽቷል። ኤልሳ፣ ትዕግስት ፍሮም ጅማ፣ እሳ ፍሮም ባህር ዳር። ቴንክ ዩ ሚስ ኤደን።
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.